morning, convener. We are live.
Declan, thanks very much indeed. First of all, can I welcome everyone to this meeting, Scottish Borders Council. Members and all attendees are advised that the public business in this meeting is being live streamed for public view and also recorded. By participating in the meeting, attendees give consent for this. The recording will be available through the link to the event live stream on the Council website for public viewing for 180 days afterwards. The recording will be automatically deleted after this time. I just remind members, please, that should we move to adjournment, please remain in place until we are advised that the appropriate message has been posted and the live stream ended. Thank you. Colleagues, I have a few comments to make under convener's remarks, item 1 on this morning's agenda, so please be patient. On Saturday, the 25th of July, we were all shocked to hear about a serious fire that had badly damaged our Newtown St Boswell's Primary School. Fortunately, there were no injuries as a result of the fire, but we were extremely disappointed to learn that it had been started deliberately and that subsequently a teenager had been charged in connection with the incident. Responding to emergency situations is a huge strength in the Scottish Borders Council. The response to the fire and displacement of Newtown Primary School is a fantastic example of a whole organisation pulling together to achieve a brilliant outcome for the children in record short time. Colleagues, we'll hear more detail of this incident on today's agenda, but I simply wanted on your behalf to thank all the children, parents, education staff, together with the entire SBC team and our many external contractors and suppliers for their positive and reassuring actions that have achieved a remarkable outcome from an extremely difficult and challenging position. And I have to say, I can't make any comment about the scurrilous comments received that says that the presence of these young people at Council HQ has increased the intellectual averages across the Council. Colleagues, at the other end of the spectrum, the quick and effective action of a West Linton teenager, Alexander Welsh, was celebrated in his home community when this 15-year-old Peebles High School pupil helped residents of Broomley Court in West Linton safely escape the blazing building. Alexander noticed the blaze and the smoke coming from the window as he was walking home on Wednesday, the 29th of July. After calling the emergency services, Alexander was joined by a local resident, Alex, before they both entered the premises, alerted residents and led them to safety. There's no doubt that Alexander's actions saved lives, prevented injury and restricted damage to a key West Linton residential property. And we join his parents and the community in praising him for his actions. Clearly a public-spirited young man, Alexander's part of a group of 30 Peebles High School pupils who will be flying to Tanzania next summer to help out schools and the wider community by building foundations for homes and completing odd jobs. Colleagues, a huge well done, and what a great shining example from a young man in Tweeddale to Alex. Well done, Alex. Colleagues, I'd also like to take this opportunity to highlight an event that I know is important to many in the Borders. Next weekend, Galashiels will host the first ever Scottish Borders Pride, a celebration of equality, diversity and inclusion in our communities. I know that all colleagues, including council staff, together with members of the public, will be made most welcome to this event that will enable them to very visibly demonstrate their support. Scottish Borders Pride creates an opportunity to come together, celebrate our LGBTQ+ communities and demonstrate that the Scottish Borders is a welcoming and inclusive place for everyone. I hope this important event attracts the strong support it deserves. And thank you to Faye for raising that to my attention. Thank you. I'd also like to very briefly congratulate all the Borders athletes who took part in the recent Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, with a special mention to Stephen Clegg, formerly of Newcastleton, who won a gold in the 50 metres freestyle S13 and a silver in the 100 metres freestyle S13. The quality and the effort of Borders athletes continues to impress, and it's wonderful to see them and been involved in that recent wonderful event. Thank you. Finally, colleagues, I just want to draw your attention to the photograph which hopefully is about to be on the screen. Thought it was got to be on the screen. There we go. I'm going to ask you with me to congratulate our Coldstream-based colleague, Councillor Donald Moffat, who was recognised by Didier Dumont, the Mayor of Bennecourt, for his amazing and dedicated commitment to the French twinning with Coldstream. The medal, which has been awarded for the first time, as we know, outside of France, is inscribed Medal of Honour Community of Bennecourt, was presented to Donald at a recent Coldstream event where I attended a celebratory anniversary afternoon tea to mark 35 years of the successful twinning and partnership. Coldstream warmly welcomed 57 visitors from Bennecourt, including 24 young people, 14 of whom are under 15 years of age. During the visit, children from Coldstream Primary School and Nicole Elementary at Bennecourt buried a time capsule to mark the anniversary. Donald was a founding member of the town's twinning and has been a frequent visitor during the twinning times and other special events over the entire period. Indeed, his mother, his wife and family have been tremendous supporters of their twinning town. So well done, Councillor Moffat and Coldstream, for their impressive commitment to maintaining all that's good in the relationship with their extended French family. Well done, Donald. Thank you, colleagues. I can now turn to item number 2 in the agenda, which is apologies for absence.
Thank you, Convener. We have apologies from Councillor Anderson, Councillor Begg, Councillor Cox, Councillor Ramage, Councillor Scott and Councillor Thornton-Nicol.
Thank you very much, Susan. Item number 3 is order of business, and order of business will be as on this morning's agenda. Item number 4, declaration of interest. Can I ask if anyone has a declaration of interest, either declare it now or at the time the subject has been presented with a short explanation for that. No. Item number 5 is the minutes of the council held on the 25th of June 2026. Are we happy to agree these minutes? Good. Item number 6 is the committee minutes of the meetings A, Q, lots of them, and the dates are there provided in the agenda. Are we happy to review these committee minutes? Okay, thank you very much indeed. Which brings us to item number 7, first substantive item on this morning's agenda, which is the update on the Newtown Primary School fire. And I'm turning to Mrs. Monroe and to Mr. Curry.
Thank you, Convener. Good morning, members, and thanks for the opportunity just to give you an update. The very successful recovery of Newtown Primary School. We've got a few slides which I'll not speak in detail to, but just to give you some headlines, as the convener's already said, if we can move on, the fire occurred on the 25th of July, which gave us a very small number of weeks until the schools returned with pupils yesterday. And the affected areas included the main reception, the nursery and the frontage to the building. So the fire damage is quite localised, but the smoke damage has permeated the whole building and we can still smell the effects of that even visiting this week. In terms of our recovery approach, 3 key points that we held as absolute principles were to keep the children safe and minimise any disruption to learning, to maintain stability and routine, familiarity for them, and then to be able to return to the school building as soon as we were able to do so. The response really was a council-wide response, not only staff from the school and education, but spanning across practically every area of the council, with particularly strong contributions from property, health and safety, facilities, and pulling staff in from across various sites across the council to be able to enable us to turn around a really fast recovery. HQ-based staff as well were also disrupted and reacted overnight in order to move desks and the clear filing cabinets to allow us to access the space in the main building that had been identified as being the most suitable to bring the children into. We were, of course, quite lucky that the school being in Newtown and this property being in the same town meant that they weren't having to all leave their hometown. In terms of the provision for the school, primary 1 to 7 pupils are already here. They arrived for the first day yesterday and are located within the ground floor. The space allows normal learning to happen. In fact, there's no aspects of the learning that are not able to happen within that space. Everything that we could keep as normal and familiar as possible. The classes that they were in with the teachers that they were due to have are all in place as it would have been if they'd been going back to their school. So their experience and their links to the community have been maintained. Security, supervision, obviously number one on the agenda, and thanks to the property team, we've been able to make sure that only the school are able to access a particular area and the children are very safe and secure within that. And also been able to identify dedicated outdoor space. They will be coming out very shortly into the grass area in the middle, which they are absolutely loving, and huge thanks to Carol Cook and our parks team for transforming that area for us. And we have, thanks to the roads team, a safe space to the rear of the building where if it's inclement weather they can also be out to play. So again, their days are uninterrupted in that way. They have, as I've said, a dedicated teaching area. The comments are very, very positive from the children around these areas being much bigger than the spaces that they're used to. So they're enjoying that. They have a large assembly space which they can use to have their meals, a kitchen area to serve those meals, and obviously all of the welfare provision that they need. And also the staff facilities, important to make sure that our staff are looked after and they have access to all the facilities that they need. Sorry, I think that's a repeat of the nursery. Nursery is obviously regulated through Care Inspectorate, and the nursery have to therefore be in a space that is registered. Earlston Primary School, which shares the head teacher and the staff already know each other and work together across the two schools, was registered for more children than were enrolled there. So we were able to identify that the children could be accommodated there. That did have some concerns for the parents. Obviously, these are our smallest children and moving them out of their community was a little bit of a concern, but working with the parents to ensure that they were able to visit with the children and putting supports around, for example, transport provision for parents and children to be able to be bused there if they weren't able to make their own arrangements has certainly helped with that transition, and I can see they're all very settled and happy in that provision. Lots of support has been put in place to help the families through the change. As I say, you know, allowing visits, the visits to both provisions. We've had regular meetings with staff and meetings with all the parents, as well as one-to-ones and drop-ins for parents who had any additional concerns. And we've made sure that there is additional pastoral support available to any families who need it. But I have to say, it's a very, very welcoming environment. The pupils have become very quickly familiarised with it, and if you know, when I go in, it feels extremely settled and as if they've been there for a long time. Obviously, turning attention to the reinstatement of the existing school is now a high priority, and Mr. Curry is going to talk us through the detail of that.
Thanks, Leslie. Good morning, members. Yeah, so just an update on the condition and the works we're undertaking on the existing school itself. So the fire originated at the west side of the school under the external canopy area and by the front door. So there's been damage caused to that external canopy, some roof elements, windows, cloakrooms, and some internal areas. We've undertaken a structural assessment of the building, and there's some significant localized damage to that canopy and the cladding windows, as mentioned earlier, but there's no evidence of any major structural failure to the building itself. So that's positive. The primary steel frame remains structurally sound and suitable for continued use. So now we are working through with the team and just scoping out and developing out the plans for reinstating those damaged areas. But the structure, as I say, is generally seen to be pretty good. There's a challenge with the purlin, which we're looking at, but again, the team are working through that with the engineers and the architects. So that's positive as much as it can be. What we have experienced challenges with, and we had the same challenges at Peebles High School, is in relation to smoke damage and how the smoke has penetrated through the building itself. It's generally an open building, and the doors in the school were open as well, so that's allowed smoke to penetrate into the building itself. That means that a lot of the soft furnishings and fabrics will have to be removed and stripped out and replaced. It also means a lot of the contents that were there may not be fully be able to be restored or kept. So we're going through a process just now with a specialist cleaning company, a company called Belfor, who we've used before at Peebles, and they are doing an extensive piece of work in decontaminating the building, removing damaged elements, smoke damaged elements, and working through each room by room, all the different components, and stripping out what we can, disposing of what we can, and cleaning what we can to try and minimise the losses as much as possible. That work's well underway. We get regular progress reports. We got one yesterday, which was actually quite positive. There was a room which we thought was more damaged by smoke than it actually is. We think we can recover more contents from that room than we previously thought. So that's generally not too bad, given the scale of the smoke damage that we've experienced. Mechanical and electrical services in the building have generally been preserved as well. Those areas closest to where the fire was are beyond economic repair and will require removal and replacement, but that work is currently being scoped out. So all in all, whilst we've had quite significant damage to the building, it's not as bad as it could have been, and we're now working through a really tight programme in cleaning the building first, then restoring and remediating those damaged elements of the fabric internally and externally, and that will involve the replacement of some soft furnishings, fabrics, as well as the external envelope as well. In addition to that, we are reviewing the fire safety actions across the council just to make sure that there are no outstanding actions that aren't being addressed, and if there are, we're going to get on top of that. So we're working through that just now with our health and safety team and our property team, and reviewing those actions and scoping out further activities to try and further reduce risks of any other damages to other buildings in the future. So that's just a summary of where we've got to with the existing building, and obviously maintaining and preserving our own asset more widely. Thanks.
John, thank you very much indeed. I'll first of all turn to the Executive Member, Councillor Paroni, before opening for questions. Julie.
Thanks very much, Convener. Firstly, and as the Convener has pointed out earlier, I want to take a moment to thank everyone involved in the temporary school that has been set up here at HQ. I've been in and it's absolutely fantastic. It's been a tremendous effort of collaboration, spearheaded by Leslie Monroe, John Curry and the KED teacher, Kevin Wilson, and their drive and enthusiasm to make things right for all the children has been really quick and should be congratulated. I haven't seen an emergency response like that in a very long time, and I am thankful to them for that. I also want to thank all the parents, because that's been a worrying time, particularly those in nursery, because they are travelling to a different school, which is also tremendous, for being patient with us, for being understanding and working alongside us. There's been a plan set out before you this morning. It will require unexpected funding to ensure the children get back into their school, hopefully sometime in the new term after Christmas. I'd ask you to support that when it comes in front of you, because it needs to be done. You'll have seen the damage that's been caused in the school. But I'd also ask officers to look at how they use that temporary school or that temporary space model in any other future changes that might occur in education going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. As I open up now, first turn to Councillor Mountford. Simon.
Yeah, thank you, Convener. And I just want to add my praise and thanks to the members of the Estates team and Ray Cherry's team for the work that they have done. And they absolutely worked their socks off to convert the downstairs area into a school. And they've done it in record time. And I think it's absolutely astounding what they've achieved in such a short time. So full marks to the team there. Just one question, John. How much of the work, if any, has been covered by insurance?
We're scoping that out just now, Councillor Murford. So the initial assessment from the loss adjuster is that the damage to the school is in the region of £240,000 of damage. The excess is 250. So we're just below that threshold, but we're continuing to monitor the works that we're progressing. We continue to engage with the insurers and the loss adjusters through that. And Susie, Douglas and I are meeting with the insurers in a couple of weeks' time just to have a further conversation around that as we get more detail on the scale of the costs associated with that. That cost excludes any of the costs that we've had, obviously, to temporarily accommodate the children in this building. So we've got a cost code set up both for capital and revenue costs, which the finance team are monitoring, and we'll be continuing to keep an eye on as we go through that process.
That's great. Thanks, John.
Simon, thank you very much. Next, I've got Councillor Marshall, followed by Councillor Lee Douglas, followed by Councillor Caroline Cochrane. Stuart.
Thanks, convener. Yeah, mine was just similar to Councillor Mountford's around the financial side, and you've explained that, Mr. Curry. So, but huge credit to everybody involved. I think everybody in this council will share that view. Timescales for getting back to normality. I know it might be a kind of loaded one for you at the minute.
Slightly loaded, but we are working to try and get the building ready for after Christmas. So we'll have a period of months where the school operates in this building. If we can do it quicker than that, we will. But it will be down to just the sequence of events and how we coordinate all that. But Christmas, returning after Christmas is the current plan.
Stuart, thanks very much. Next, Councillor Douglas Lee.
Thank you, convener. And I just want to echo a lot of what my colleagues have said, but absolutely outstanding what the council have done in such a short period of time. And it really is all credit to Leslie and John spearheading it, but also all the teams that have been involved. And I just want to list some of them because I think a few haven't been mentioned. Obviously, education, property and estates, catering, cleaning, janitorial, parks, roads, transport, health and safety, emergency planning. All of them had to come together in super fast time and deliver, which is just an amazing outcome. Also, I think we should be mindful and remember this involved a lot of teams having to decant from where they work regularly, very quickly. And I've been informed that in 3 days, whilst keeping all those services running, bereavement services, information, licensing, legal, finance, health and safety, and customer services team members all had to decant from their desks and make that space available. And all those services were not disrupted during that time either. So it's just been an incredible across council working and achieving a great outcome. I want to just add as well, I was very much at the coalface with regards to a number of extremely anxious family members, young people, concerned about what it meant for them. And I have watched these families transform from anxiety, anger, frustration, to just being totally overwhelmed and delighted with the outcome and just the positive feedback we've had, which often we don't get. As we know, people tend to be loud when they're bringing in their complaints, but the people eager to just express their thankfulness. And also just mention one example, when we were in HQ and all the parents were invited in, one parent actually chose to speak up at the end and said, I'm going to be honest with you, I thought this was going to be a disaster and I cannot believe how positive this is, and thank you very much. So outstanding by all the officers, and it really is lovely to know that these young people and families, you know, could look forward to yesterday, and I'm sure it was a very successful day. So thank you very much.
Lee, thank you for that endorsement. And now Councillor Cochrane. Caroline.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs Munro and Mr Curry, for this important update and for the work that you've both put into resolving this matter. As the school is within my ward, I would also like to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to everyone who responded and supported the community following the fire. I want to recognise the tremendous response from the local community, parents, teachers, school staff, SPC officers, local organisations and volunteers. An incident like this is upsetting for any community, particularly when it involves a place as important as a primary school. But in difficult moments, we are reminded that strength comes from the people we are standing together. A school is much more than a building. It's its children, its teachers, its family and the relationships and the memories created there. As we've heard today, that spirit remains strong. On behalf of everyone affected, thank you to our officers and emergency services for your dedication, and thank you to the community for their compassion, resilience and support. Thank you very much.
Caroline, thank you for that. Next, come to the leader, Councillor Jardine.
Thank you, conveners. I'll lean over for this. I just want to put on record, thank you very much to the team who did it. First, emergency services who went there in the day, but then the team at the council who went out and done some really hard work, turned us around. And I think last night watching the local news, ITV Border News, it was quite clear to see that the young people were very excited to be in the building. They were asked a question, would you prefer this building or the old one? And I think 75% said they would prefer the building they're in now. And I think you covered it, Leslie, when you said they love the big space, the area, different things to be doing. And I think it's really exciting for them. But at the same time, they were interviewing parents, and parents actually gave the same feedback. And that, I think Councillor Perrone said, that unexpected, actually how it was compared to what the reality was going to be. So I want to say thank you to everyone for that. Obviously continue the work with the school, trying to get it back into place. And again, it shows you this council, when we're pushed against the ropes, we actually come out fighting it and deliver something again. So well done to everyone involved, and let's continue. Thank you.
Ewan, thank you for that. Next, Councillor Sinclair Fay.
Thank you. Just to echo the thanks to everyone who's helped make this transition for the school into a new space so successful. As I've done quite a bit of work on transitions in recent years with the Borders Buddy project. So when every new primary one went to school yesterday, they all had a hand knitted or crocheted Borders Buddy, also arranged then for every pupil at Newtown Primary to receive the same to support them through their transition. And I understand that was well received. And the head teacher also got his own little Borders Buddy as well. So I hope that's well received. I hope the children enjoy their time in headquarters and enjoy getting back into a freshly painted new school when they go back across the road. Thank you.
Well done, Faye. I've not seen my buddy lying about, but she'll be en route. Just checking now around the table. Anybody else wishing to contribute online or in the room? No, in which case are we happy for the update? We accepted. Great, thank you very much indeed. No recommendations. So now we turn to item number 8, the draft proposal paper on the consultation to permanently close Fountain Hall Primary School and the Early Learning and Childcare rezone catchment to Heriot Primary School. And I think I'm turning to Mrs. Uri, who's on screen. Marina, over to you.
Hello. Thank you, convener, elected members. Thank you this morning. Hopefully everybody can hear me all right. Before I start, I wish to simply state that I've noticed that there's a small mistake at recommendation 2.2 at the end of the line. The time for the public meeting has now been agreed, in fact, for 5:30 p.m. and thus I would just like to verbally amend the time within that recommendation, as it states it is 6 p.m. but in fact it's 5:30. So if I could verbally amend the time to 5:30 p.m. for completeness, if I may, that would be great. Is that accepted? I can't see people.
Yeah, it's I think so no dissent, so on you go.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everyone, for that. So the purpose of this item today is to ask members to approve the proposal paper before you to allow the statutory consultation to commence on Monday the 24th of August. So that's this Monday coming, in relation to the proposed permanent closure of the Fountain Hall Primary School and Early Learning and Childcare setting, and the proposed rezoning of the Fountain Hall Primary catchment area to Heriot Primary School. It's important to emphasise at the outset, I think, that members are not being asked today to make a final decision to close the school or the ALC setting. The decision today is to approve the proposal paper only, so that the formal full statutory consultation process can begin before any final decision is made. By way of background, members will recall that Fountain Hall Primary School is currently temporarily closed, having been so in June 2025, when the projected roll for August 2025 had fallen to 1 pupil. The ELC setting had already been temporarily closed before in 2023 following low demand. Since that temporary closure, officers carried out a detailed review and options appraisal analysis. That work considered current projected demand, pupil numbers, community survey responses, building position, financial and operational implication, rural factors, travel arrangements, and the impact on the wider community. Because Fountain Hall is a rural primary school for the purposes of the Schools Consultation Act 2010, there's a presumption against closure, and it was necessary to consider, therefore, all reasonable alternatives and discount those before moving to a statutory consultation. The options appraisal considered alternatives including reopening combine Fountain Hall with existing catchment area, seeking to expand the catchment, continuing temporary closure and proceeding to consultation on permanent closure and rezoning. And officers, elected members will remember that concluded that proceeding to statutory consultation on permanent closure was the favoured options, and elected members then agreed on the 26th of June at full council the options appraisal report and agreed to move to the statutory consultation. So I don't want to go into too much detail about the options appraisal, as that has already been agreed and the moving to the statutory consultation, but briefly the proposal paper does explain in more depth the educational benefits of rezoning to Heriot, the continued low demand for Fountain Hall, the lack of evidence that the school in the ELC setting would be viable and sustainable if reopened, and the educational, operational and financial drawbacks of reinstating provision at Fountain Hall. It's also relevant that Heriot Primary School is already the current temporary catchment school for Fountain Hall, and the proposal paper notes that supporting the sustainability of Heriot is important. It's also taking into account community preferences, which were very clear within the majority survey responses within the options appraisal analysis. So supporting community preferences for sustainability for rural school provision in that area. So if members approve the proposal paper today, the statutory consultation is scheduled to start on Monday until the Monday 12th October inclusive, which is a statutory requirements in terms of timescales. Public meeting is proposed for Wednesday 16th at 5:30 p.m. at Fountain Hall Village Hall, and Education Scotland come in as well as an independent who assess educational benefits, and they have a identified timescale between October and November, where they will assess the educational benefits of the proposal and provide a report thereafter. Finally, I just want to mention the Community Council of Stow and Fountain Hall. Regrettably, after the last council meeting, officers became aware that the Community Council had been unable to participate in the initial options appraisal survey, and officers were unaware of this due to an administrative error. Correspondence had been being sent throughout the options appraisal review period to an out-of-date Community Council email address, and unfortunately officers were unaware of this. There was no communications back, no bounce back for officers to be aware of this during, and unfortunately it was the case that it was only found out after the options appraisal analysis. So I just want to take this opportunity to reassure the Community Council of Fountain Hall and Stow that the will be a relevant consultee, of course, in the statutory consultation process. And officers are keen to ensure that their views are heard and considered within the statutory consultation process. So Community Council is strongly encouraged to submit representations and participate fully, obviously come along to the public meeting, and officers are maintaining direct contact with the Community Council now throughout this process, and they are aware today that proposal papers coming to be agreed and discussed today. For clarity, the recommendation today is to simply approve the proposal papers so that the commencement of the statutory consultation can start on Monday. Again, just reiterate that the final decision on whether to permanently close Fountain Hall Primary School and ELC and whether to permanently rezone the catchment area is not being taken today. It is only after a full statutory consultation takes place, and a further report is brought back to Council in the form of a consultation report in terms of the legislation. Then will a decision be up to Council for further consideration at that stage. So I would ask members to agree the recommendations, approve the draft proposal report in order for it to be published due to the commencement of the primary school and early learning care provision statutory consultation on permanent closure due to open on Monday. Agree to move to publish a further public notice, simply stating the dates and announcing the date for the public meeting, and agree that a consultation report be brought back to Council following the statutory consultation for further considerations of Council. Thank you for that. Very happy to take any questions forthcoming and answer those along with Mrs Munro in terms of any questions. Thank you.
Thank you once again. Just a sharp presentation. I'll just turn first of all to the director to see if she wants to add anything at this stage.
No, thank you. I'm just happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. In which case I'll turn to the executive member, Councillor Perrone.
Thanks very much, Convener. Members, it's always a sad day when we're looking at considering starting a statutory consultation on closing a school permanently. But this school has been temporarily closed for a while, and we need to move it forward to give some certainty to parents and to children, and also to try and ensure the sustainability of neighbouring schools. The rezoning of the catchment area will help to support Heriot Primary, where we have given a commitment and where we have a new and vibrant new nursery now in place, which opened to the children yesterday and will be officially opened in early September. I'd urge everyone locally to take part in the consultation, and I'd ask you members to agree with the recommendations today, which I fully support. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Now open up for any debate, and I'll turn first to Councillor Sinclair-Fahey.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a difficult one. It's positive to be in the position that we're going to speak to the community and look at a way forward from a position of having such low enrolment. It's never positive to see numbers dropping, potentially an area lose a school. I think there's a positive story to tell from this, though, in that while we're looking at the potential loss of a school in one area, that the change of catchment can create a really strong school community just up the road in Heriot, where the majority of the young people are already living, and there were a lot of placing requests kind of heading in that direction anyway. So creating that really strong wider catchment, I think could be a genuine benefit to give the young people a good strong cohort to learn with and to then move on to high school with. I know it's not part of things at this stage because we're looking at the educational aspect, but if the closure does go ahead, I know that the community is keen to discuss future uses of the site, in particular the village hall, which is just opposite along the main street, doesn't have any outdoor space at all. So the outdoor space from the school is quite a well-used community asset, with it being right in the centre of the village. So just to be mindful of that going forward. This isn't just a school building, it's a space for a community. And the other aspect, I suppose, is that while there have been no enrolments, I'm aware of a couple of babies in the village. So we might see some interesting stuff coming through the consultation, depending on the numbers, whether we're aware of the number of young people coming through. So all of that needs to come out. So I'd encourage people, even if they don't have children of school age or approaching school age, particularly young children, to make that known and make their views known, because this is about their kids' education. Even though it feels when they're a baby, it's far away, it comes round very quickly. Thank you.
Thank you, and I think these points are noted, yeah. Councillor Jardine-Leader.
Yeah, thank you. Just as a local member, I just want to say, obviously, it's unfortunate. I think I'll echo a lot what Councillor Sinclair said, Councillor Perrone said as well. It's unfortunate, but this is also what happens in a rural area. This is happening more and more. Rural schools were not the only region to be affected by this sort of issue where population growth and young people drops, and then we have to close school. But I think it will be an opportunity for them to have a more different education going to Heriot, to get more chance for other opportunities. So, oh, there's an echo in the room. But yeah, I support this, Convener. Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's feedback on somebody's connection at this side of the room. We'll see how we go on the next one. So thank you for that. You and the North Tampa Councillor Steele Hannah.
Thank you. I just want to echo what's been said, really, that it is very it's very sad to consider the closure of a rural school, but the opportunity to revitalise Heriot Primary School is an exciting one. And I just have a little question for clarity. In the paper, it said the public meeting will be at the primary school, but just verbally it was said the village hall. So I just wanted to double check that.
Yeah, sorry,
Happy to take that question if I can. Thank you for that. You're absolutely right. So the village hall was agreed just in the last couple of days to have the meeting. So it's 5:30 in the village hall. There will be full communication sent out with this, so everybody should be aware. But you're absolutely right. That's not quite right because there had been a change at the last minute. So it's the village hall at 5:30 on Wednesday, the 16th of September.
Thank you.
Hannah, thank you very much for that. Okay, can I just check again online and in the room, anybody else wishing to contribute? No, I'd be happy to agree the recommendations. Great. Okay, colleagues, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Maria. Thank you again. Now can we turn to item number 9, which is early intervention, prevention and social prescribing programme proposal. And I know we have Mrs. Craig, who's been supported by Katrina and Jennifer, I understand, who are here. Thank you very much for joining us. And I'll hand over to you. I would say David Parker's flagged up that he may have some technical difficulty from putting the council leader on standby. He may need somebody to fit into that if that continues. But David will try his best, I'm sure about that. Jenny, over to you.
Thank you very much, convener, and good morning, members. Yeah, I'm going to kick this off and then I'm going to pass over to colleagues. So the report before you today is seeking approval for the development and funding of an early intervention, prevention and social prescribing programme for the Scottish Borders. At its heart, this proposal is about shifting our focus further upstream, helping people to stay well, remain independent and access the right support in their own communities before needs escalate. We know that the Borders faces significant health and wellbeing challenges, including an ageing population, persistent health inequalities and increasing levels of loneliness and social isolation. And obviously you're all aware of the growing pressure on both health and social care services. So this programme proposed in the report is intended to respond to those challenges in a practical and very partnership-based way. It looks to build on the existing Live Borders activity referral programme, which is currently in place and that we progressed through our partnership with Live Borders, and would expand that offer through a structured approach to physical activity, but also creative and cultural participation, as well as community-based support. So I'm going to pass on now to Jen Knox, who is the Health Interventions Programme Lead in Live Borders, and also joined by Katrina, the Chief Executive, who you all know. So Jen's just going to run through a little bit more detail, and you've got some slides to share about the programme itself, and then I'll maybe, convener, just come back at the end after that presentation, just before opening up for questions. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for having us here today. We're really pleased to come along and present this proposal. If you would put the slide up. So yeah, we're here today to talk about our prevention and early intervention paper that we're bringing to you today. I have worked within the health programme at Live Borders for about 4 years now, and it's a really successful programme, but very, very small. So we're really pleased to have this opportunity to kind of propose something that's going to allow us to grow that and to sort of fulfil some of the ambitions that we have within that. I think you could skip forward to slide 3 for me, please. Kind of handily covered that first one for me, so thank you. So yeah, so the ask around here was to support both SBC and NHS Borders around their focus on prevention and early intervention, to provide some support to overburdened health and social care services, and also to strengthen the partnerships between Live Borders, the council and our local health board, pooling our resources and working to our strengths. With quite a lot of strategic work has gone into this as well. So we've aligned it with a lot of the papers that you can see on there. We also work within our programme currently quite closely with Public Health Scotland. Our programme adheres to the physical activity referral standards, and we adhere to the Scotland's tiered model as well, which is referenced in paper at sort of 4.1. We've also incorporated the locality plans. Obviously, Burnfoot has been put together already, and I think the other ones are sort of in the process. And also just strengthening the whole systems approach that Public Health Scotland are recommending. If you want to go to the next slide for me, please. So the proposal itself, referring back to the tiered model, there's 5 tiers on that. Tier 1 is at the very top, obviously, and that is for people that are still needing support from the clinical teams. So that we've tried to incorporate that into our programme and to put us in a position where we can support the delivery of clinical interventions within our facilities. So it's that first step out of clinical care into community-based care. So opening up our facilities so that clinical physios and things can deliver sessions within our facilities, potentially looking at mass appointment days, community appointment days, and other ways that we can work together there. The main parts of this proposal are the ones that are on your screen there. So the sort of tier 2 level, that's where we currently work. So we currently have about 600 referrals a year come through. So it's building on that existing programme. This proposal will enable us to provide free access for 12 weeks for people. So it'll remove a lot of the barriers that are currently there for people accessing. People will be supported by our health coaches. So they are qualified to deliver behaviour change support. So as part of that tier 2 activity, you get that one-to-one support. There'll be specialist physical activity sessions. So we run sessions that are out for people with Parkinson's, MS, falls prevention, sort of specific strength and balance work. Also supported access into gyms and pools, regular check-ins there. The relationship building is quite key to that, and supported access onto other elements. The tier 3 programme there, Live Well Connect, that's a brand new programme for us, and that's where we really pull in our sort of cultural services as well. So this will be some physical activity, but also really utilising our teams within our sort of creative and cultural services and our libraries, museums, things like that. Again, it'll be 12 weeks free access. We're putting together a programme that sort of weaves all those things together. So it gives people an introduction into a lot of our community-based activities. So connecting people to their community, building social connections, building relationships is a really key part of that programme. Again, they're supported by coaches. It's lighter touch support than in the tier 2, and then also supported into other activities going on from that. Pathway development would be a really key part of the success of this programme. So obviously coming back to the start, how do people actually get into that programme? So we do have a few partnerships that work really well between ourselves, SBC and NHS Borders. But for us, it's about really strengthening those, really developing those pathways. So it's really clear for, as people are being referred in, how they do so, what our programme actually is. But also working with other services where that doesn't exist and how we can expand that. So areas that we've identified already, sort of social work teams, learning disability teams, education, working with carers to support them, falls prevention, MSK physios, primary care teams, so GPs, first contact physios, practice nurses, pharmacists. The local area coordinator teams and wellbeing teams will be really key to the success of this, because a lot of what they do is about connecting people to activities that are happening. So we look to kind of expand and develop that. Our Macmillan teams, single point of contact teams, and many, many more. I think there's be a lot of people in there that we've kind of not even touched on yet that we can really look to develop. We've phased the programme over 3 years. It's quite a big expansion for us, so it's to allow the time for it to build. There's a big focus on the staffing within this, so it gives us time to recruit those people in and train them as we work through it. And then the onward route, so when people have come through that programme, where do they go next? So that's also something that we've really thought about and focused on. There's a very doors open approach to this, so people can come in at multiple points, they can exit at multiple points, they can move between the tiers as they're supported by either the health interventions coaches or the other coaching teams there. Very person-centred approach we take here. So the bulk of the funding that we're looking for is to support staffing and training, as I mentioned. That really supports long-term change. So about relationship building, supporting around behaviour change and the lifestyle change, active listening. It's very much about us being led by the individuals. What do they feel they would like to do? What do they feel they're able to do? What sort of support systems do they have set in place? Another big part of this project is around signposting and developing a directory of quality local providers. So we are very much not looking to replicate things that are already happening. We've done quite a lot of mapping work, and we can kind of look to fill gaps where appropriate, but it's very much about working with the teams that are already there, other third sector organisations, and developing the relationships between the two so that we can sort of support what they're doing and feed people into that, but it kind of works both ways as well. The proposal is very much a starting point. We recognise that there are still gaps within that. There'll be continued evaluation and development through the programme as we kind of work towards developing, hopefully, a phase 2. We're really focused on making sure this programme is quality so that what we're doing really works for people. Very much listening to feedback from the people that are using our service, the people that are accessing our service as we go forward. Move to the next slide, please. Thank you. So opportunities. So clearly the key opportunities within this proposal are to improve the quality of life, health outcomes for people living in our communities and reducing health inequalities. But there's also many other opportunities to be had here around strategic development, building on a whole systems approach and true partnership working, building the effectiveness. Benefits to the individuals of these types of interventions are already well proven and backed by research. So this is very much not a pilot. This is us doing this. And it's a chance for us all to work together to create something really new and exciting. Challenges will exist. Ensuring that we have the support of health professionals and our public and that they understand why we're doing this and the benefits of doing this will be really key. But there's lots of opportunities that exist already with our colleagues in Public Health Scotland as we support their work around the national physical activity pathways. They are underway with work to review that programme and to sort of redevelop it. We've also had a lot of appetite within SPC and NHS borders to work together to develop combined communications so that we are delivering a very coherent and combined message. And just to reiterate, partnership working is vital to tackle the issues that we see in our region, to manage our workloads and our budgets. For every £1 spent on prevention, the return on investment is around £9. And the last slide, please. So I just want to say thank you very much. I think Katrina's got a couple of things to say and then we're happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Well, I'm delighted to say that I have nothing to add because I think Jen has covered that beautifully. And you know, you've heard a lot from me in the last year, but I think it was also really important today that you heard from, you know, the expert within Live Borders and, you know, to show some of the capacity and skill and knowledge that we have to deliver a programme such as this. So thank you, Jen.
Yeah, and I guess just to wrap it up, all I was going to say is obviously members, you can see the recommendations outlined in the report, and it's just to emphasise that what you're being asked to agree to today is to fund 50% of the programme costs over that 3-year period, as Jen's outlined, subject to matching support from NHS borders. And obviously conversations have been taking place with relevant officers in NHS borders as well. And then obviously what we're proposing is that the appropriate performance monitoring and full evaluation would be brought back. And this will allow us to test and evidence the impact of a much more kind of coordinated social prescribing model right across the borders, as you've heard about today, and look at hopefully that reduced pressure on services and stronger community resilience. So yes, as I said, very happy to answer any questions members may have.
Okay, ladies, thanks very much indeed for the presentation, first class. And we'll first of all turn to the executive member who's going to try and come online, which is David Parker. And we've got a reserve if that doesn't work, David. So we'll give you a try first. Mr. Parker.
Convener, Councillor Parker is not on.
He's dropped off. We did know he was having technical problems. So I'm going to turn to the deputy, very able deputy, and Councillor Witherson, acknowledging that there is an amendment being moved to this to one of the recommendations, and we'll move to the amendment after we've heard from the executive member. So, Councillor Witherson, Tom.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I've not been prepared for this, so I'll be brief. I'd like everyone in the chamber to support this paper. it's a fantastic piece of work and something we need to support. Early intervention is key, and this is improving on what we're already doing. We need to get society fitter and healthier, including myself. And if we do this piece of work, it'll have long-term benefits going forward. So I'd urge every member in the chamber to support this paper. I'm quite happy that SBC pay half the funding, because the funding is key. And also the joint working with everybody working together on this is a great way forward. So I'd urge everybody to support the paper, and thank you.
Thanks, Tom, and thanks for stepping in last minute. Thank you. So I'll now turn to Councillor Perrone, who I know is going to move an amendment. Is there somebody to second your amendment, Councillor Perrone?
There is indeed Councillor Hamilton, who's in the chamber.
Councillor Hamilton. Okay, thank you. On you go, Joe.
Members, the reason for this amendment is not to distract from the brilliance of the project that's been presented in front of us, or the suggestions on the work outlined in the paper, but its aim is to clearly highlight that social prescribing doesn't just sit at the council's door, but also with our colleagues in the NHS. Do we have an organisation in Live Borders to deliver a wealth of social and wellbeing prescribing? Yes, we do, but this programme should be completely shared responsibility, and it's important that the NHS board, which will sign this off, recognises that and also can clearly know that its funding is required here too, if we are to achieve the beneficial impacts we want to see across the borders. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Councillor Hamilton, just confirm your second in that amendment, and do you wish to speak?
Yes, confirming it, and I'll just be very brief to add to Councillor Perrone's remarks there. I think it's absolutely right that we look at this, and I think it's important that Live Borders moves into that space of this activity, because we need to do something, as Councillor Weatherston pointed out. It's about people living well, fit, healthy, and after a long weekend off, you can probably hear I probably could do with some of that as well. But I think what Councillor Perrone's amendment is, and why I'm happy to support it, is we've got to do this in coordination with NHS Borders, and we've got to ensure that everybody's at that table, because how many meetings can we be at where we all hear the good words spoken around the table from every different public sector organisation, but yet when it comes to the crunch, nobody puts their hands in their pocket, nobody actually moves forward with some of the stuff. So, you know, the Scottish Borders Council, Live Borders are willing, so let's just make sure NHS Borders are as well, and I hope they are, and I hope this amendment ensures that that is put forward and delivered.
Great, Scott, thank you for that. At this stage, can I turn to Councillor Weatherston and ask him if he's happy to support or agree the amendment?
I am, Chair, yes.
And is there a seconder to that? Councillor Moffat, thank you very much indeed, Councillor Moffat. In which case, I'll now open up for any debate, and I'll turn to Councillor Tatler. Robin.
Thank you, Convener. Members, I am hugely supportive of this this report and this whole move towards social prescribing, and it's really about time that we actually did something on this. We've talked about it before. We've had various pilot schemes in the borders and so on, but we really now need to get cracking with it, and this is a great start to it. I'm pleased to see that in the report under 1.9, we realise that this needs to be part of a much wider scheme. This is the start of the process, but it needs to encompass things like healthy eating. It needs to encompass other activities such as gardening and hobbies and social activities, because there are not only physical health benefits, but there are mental health benefits as well that we can achieve in this. And that figure of £9 for every pound spent is, represents a huge opportunity. I think there are some issues that we need to tackle. Not least of all is the one that's been raised in the amendment. We absolutely need the buy-in from the NHS on this, but we need the buy-in actually from every partnership organisation that we work with across the public sector and the third sector, because this could be the single biggest action that we take to change our health in the Scottish Borders. And we, as I say, we need to be fully committed to it. And I want to just give you, finish by giving you a personal example. Oh, sorry, there was one other thing I wanted before I go to that. I do think that the words social prescribing are quite challenging, and we need to look at how we brand that. I really like what you've done there in terms of the live well. I think that's a good start to it, because I do think people will struggle to get their heads around what social prescribing actually means. I want to finish by just giving a personal example of how this kind of thing can affect you and can make a real change to people's health. And I'm going to use my own example. So you obviously all know in this chamber how much I'm passionate about cycling. In fact, recently, back in June, I completed the Ride to the Sun, which is a 100-mile cycle from Carlisle to Edinburgh. That didn't come about without a particular motivating factor, and I just want to tell you about that. So in March, early March 2020, I had a blood test, and I got a call from the nurse practitioner in fact, on the 23rd of March. Now, some of you will remember what the 23rd of March 2020 was. It has a deep significance. It was obviously the day that we all went into lockdown. Anyway, the nurse was saying, I'm sorry, Mr. Tatler, you have a very high, your blood sugar level is very high. And in fact, it looks like you've got type 2 diabetes, and we would need to do something about that. So I understood, obviously, the pressures that they were going through at that particular point in time. And anyway, we had a discussion about it, and I explained to them that I understood what I needed to do in terms of trying to get that blood sugar level down, which was about diet, which was about exercise. And they very kindly agreed to retest me in 3 months to see if they could if I could make some changes, and that is really what prompted me to then undertake to cycle. I cycled every day from then on, and I also tackled my eating habits and managed to reduce my weight by over a stone. Long story short, 3 months later, blood sugar level reduced by at least a half, and from then on, although I've been monitored, I'm what they call pre-diabetic, so I managed to get out of that situation, which would have saved undoubtedly money from their point of view and from the NHS's point of view in terms of drugs and so on. So it makes a huge difference. Now, what we need to do is to get people motivated. I happen to be self-motivated, but this will motivate people to make a change, and it will make a change that will improve their health and reduce costs at the same time. So please support the recommendations, support the amendment as well, and let's start the journey. Thank you.
Robin, thank you, and for that very personal story, which was very impactful. Thank you very much indeed. Now, a bit of patience, please. There's quite a number of people wishing to speak, but next is Councillor Wee Douglas. Wee.
Thank you, Convener, and thank you, Katrina, for that paper. I think it's fantastic. In fact, thank you all the Live Borders team. I want to say thank you to Councillor Tatler as well, because I think sharing that story does make everybody stop and think, and it was valuable. So thank you. Back to the paper. For me, one of the strengths is that it isn't simply about putting people through a 12-week programme. It's about prevention, changing behaviour, and helping people progress into tiers 4 and 5. I regularly use Selkirk Leisure Centre myself. I enjoy it, but also find it really insightful, just getting to the cold face and speaking to the people that are there. And it's actually something that a discussion this morning that's prompted a question I want to ask, and it's about latent demand, and indeed the additional demand that we hope this programme will generate. So I went for my usual swim, and the pool was slightly busier than normal, and that was because Gala was closed this morning. These things happen. That's not the point I'm trying to make, but that's why there was a few more of the regular than the regulars over. So I was in a lane with 5 swimmers, comfortable capacity, and that was okay. Afterwards, though, I went into the sauna and I spoke to 2 ladies who are less confident swimmers. They were in the slow lane, and they were just telling me they would normally have aimed for around 40 lengths. But again, asked them why they were there, for lose a bit of weight, for their health and well-being. But they'd came out after about, I think, 12, they said, lengths, because they just found it was a bit too busy. There was a lot more splashing and they didn't feel particularly comfortable. So they cut their swim short. And it struck me that this is perhaps a small real life illustration of something we're going to need to consider if this programme is as successful as we hope it's going to be. And looking at the paper, the scale of the ambition is obviously significant. We're talking about 860 programme places currently to 4,320 by year 3. So, and obviously ultimately we're wanting people to progress into the mainstream activities to sustain that activity. So have we assessed what the latent and the additional demand arising from success might look like? And are we confident that the Live Borders estate has sufficient capacity to accommodate it? Now, I'm asking in particular in relation to pools. And if I can focus in on Selkirk Swimming Pool, obviously of great interest to me being in my ward, currently subject to community asset transfer, which I sincerely hope succeeds, but there's no guarantees. You know, obviously operating a swimming pool has got considerable greater complexity than keeping a village hall going, keeping a community centre going. All that being said, I must champion the Victoria Park Action Group, who are working so hard to really understand what that entails, and indeed Live Borders, you know, working with them as well to help them. But, you know, although it's not a scenario I want to contemplate, if Selkirk's pool was to ultimately close, and at the moment, even before this strategy is rolled out fully, I can see it is already supporting people with hip issues, knee issues, coming back from cancer, operations, diabetes. The stories go on and on. They're coming to Selkirk because of accessibility as well. Are we confident the current estate or how the new estate might look like will be able to support this additional demand if the strategy generates the success? That's my question. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll maybe come in, but Katrina might want to comment as well. So I think in terms of the question on latent demand, members will be, you know, very aware that that was a huge part of what the Integratis work focused on. So the decisions that members took in the chamber in November last year, which is obviously forming the plans that we are progressing in relation to the transformation programme, that took into account the levels of latent demand that Integratis felt were, I suppose, right across all our communities, and the recommendations that they made about the future of the estate were very much based on that. So although this programme is obviously looking to encourage more and more people to come forward and start to participate, that was taken into account in terms of the latent demand figures in the Integratis study.
Thank you. Yes, so I think there's quite a few different aspects to this, and you know, the actual delivery of this programme will happen in many different venues because we want to be able to get it out into the wide geographical spread. So some of this activity will actually take place in non-Live Borders facilities because we need to go with what's right for the community and not necessarily where we have an infrastructure. Certainly from a sort of gym and class capacity, I'm very confident that we have quite a considerable untapped level of capacity at the moment. I think if you looked back at our figures pre-COVID, we still haven't quite fully recovered. So you can see what we were able to do with the same suite of facilities in the fairly recent past. So I'm not too concerned about the dry side capacity. In terms of the wet side, I think there is these pools are quiet, or more quiet than I think they should be. So I'm quite confident that we would take that demand. And what I would also say is I would very much hope to be here again in 3 years or 5 years' time with a long-term cultural and leisure facility strategy to put in front of you, which says we have done so well about removing health inequalities and all the different inequalities that exist in SBC, that you really should be funding additional facilities. So if we do this well and we do this right, then we can see the benefit of those facilities and how hard they work for our communities. And that would be a fantastic situation to get ourselves in, and a massive success story. But certainly in that ensuing period, I think we can cope with this very, very well. It may take some different programming in the swimming pools, and that can cause some issues. But I think at the moment, I don't see any issues on that front.
Okay, thank you. Louise, are you done?
I am, thank you. Yeah, and it was the wet side. Thank you, though. That's really helpful.
Brilliant. Thank you for your question. Next, Councillor Thompson. Viv.
Thank you. I'm absolutely supportive of this. I've had first-hand experience of social prescribing and the role that it had within Citizens Advice. We were able to get people onto courses, and a huge part of this is about social isolation and ending that and making linkages for people. They grudgingly go along to these things and then discover that they're not the only person that's in that situation. They find people to speak to, and the changes can actually happen really quickly when they make the right contacts with people. So I'm 100% behind this. And I have to apologise to Katrina, because I did say I would give you links for open spaces, and all of the activity doesn't have to take place indoors. We've got loads of land through the common goods. We've got access to community woodlands. So there's a lot of activity can happen. I will get those. You're on a pink post-it in front of my desk over to do action. So you are still there. And I just wondered about, spreading the net about how to get people into this, because it is massive. And about including organisations like the Food Bank and Citizens Advice, because they'll have people who don't want to go through the schools or the health centre, but they'll gladly take advice from somebody that they trust. So it's maybe looking at other routes as well to be able to do that prescribing. And again, I think it's a really fantastic thing. And when you see somebody who, one of the families I supported, there was alcoholism in that, and after a session on this, that just seemed to vanish. They found their place. They found people to link in with, and just to see somebody blossom from wandering about in a wood was absolutely amazing. So I'm 100% behind this. I think it's an amazing piece of work that we're looking to do, and I can't see that the health board will say no, because the benefits for them as people start to come off medications, their lists shrink. It's immense. So thank you.
All noted, I think, Viv. So thank you very much indeed for that. So next, Councillor Aileen.
Thank you, Chair. I think it's a brilliant paper. I'm gonna use it myself, by the way, being 73 now. But the problem I have, I've talked to a lot of people, in their 70s, 80s, even 90s in my own ward, and one of the biggest problems is actually transport, because so many of them have lost their licenses. They've given up their cars. And although we've got Berkshire Wheels and taxi service and whatnot, it's just getting some of them into a routine even of getting them to that specific place, and it could be far away. We've got really Duns or we've got Eyemouth, and that's our two big areas. So really, it's a question of trying to get some integrated transport somehow, to get people to go, even 2 or 3 people in one, transportation. But there is an appetite for this, and it's for a long, long time in our area we had line dancing and various other things, which seems to have gone by the wayside. But the whole thing is, it's about, being able to sit and talk to somebody else, just even in a taxi. Because myself and my other 2 councillors in our ward, we spend a lot of time, talking to people who just can't get out of their houses, and they call us for what seems to be really silly things, but you actually go and you find out, that there's actually a heck of a lot more going on. And they're really welcome to sit down. If you have time to have a cup of tea with them, my goodness, they'll even phone and thank you for coming. And so I think the transportation is a problem. And I'm just would really be interested to see how we can overcome that. And I'm sure a lot of more certainly of people in my ward would certainly use what's there, even if it's to sit and have a knit and natter or a cup of tea or whatever. or even getting them moving, you know, through things like line dancing. But I think it's a brilliant paper. I'm really enthused, and I also support the amendment. I think we can go down that road. But thank you for doing that work.
Thank you very much, Aileen. So next we'll turn to Councillor Cochrane. Caroline.
Sorry. Thanks, Jen, for presenting that today. Social prescribing is something that I've wanted to see developed further in the Scottish Borders for some time. We know that involving in wellbeing isn't always about clinical treatment. Sometimes connecting people with community group, physical activity, culture or arts can make a real difference, particularly in tackling isolation and loneliness. We already have a fantastic community and voluntary organisations across the borders. The opportunity is to connect them more effectively and with our health and care services. This is about prevention, stronger communities and helping people live healthier, more connected lives. And I'm pleased to support it, and I hope that the NHS also do see the benefits and take it forward. Thank you.
Caroline, thank you for that. The next council leader, Councillor Jarl.
Thank you very much, Convener. And it's no surprise there's quite a lot of members wanting to talk on this item because it is such a exciting proposal for the region. I want to thank Live Borders for bringing this forward and the officers working with them. This is something we've talked about for a long time. Prevention is the key to unlocking a lot of opportunities for our region, but it's also the key to help the strain on the NHS. And so for the NHS, when they get this in front of their table, when they discuss it at the board, if they would say no to this, I think that'd be a folly on their part. I think they really need to be ahead of the curve and supporting this, because this is something that can make a real change in communities, especially rural communities where isolation and loneliness is an issue. That turns out, I read an article, I think it was one of the universities in America, I'm going to say Stanford University, had looked at that, and that caused more damage to people than smoking. Loneliness and isolation, that can cause more. And if we can get on top of that and we can counter that, we can make a progress. But I'm also interested that GPs across the country are also now social prescribing. Park run is something for people to go out and do, because you can not just run, you can volunteer, you can get involved in walking and running. We have 3 park runs in the Borders, one in Kelso, one in Hawick that the council were instrumental in getting together, and one in Peebles, which has been established for a long time. And we're also in conversations now to get one at Abbotsford, centrally in the Borders. So I think this is something hopefully you'll be able to work with park run organisers and GPs to make sure that that's put on the list as well. I think this covers a whole lot of people. It's not just people who want to get active. Councillor Statler stated it as well. People just want to go out and volunteer. People just want to do an activity. It's important to do it. So I really 100% support this. I think what we're finding today, members are looking to support this, and hopefully the NHS will back this as well. Move forward. Thank you very much for the work. Thank you.
Yeah, Ewan, thank you for that. Now, so Councillor Robson. Ewan.
Thanks, Convener. I think it's self-evidently the case that this is a splendid potential development, and as members have said, it'll bring a lot of benefits. I would just like to ask a couple of questions about sustainability and then evaluation. What's being asked is quite a considerable resource commitment at a time of difficulty within the budgets. And I suspect that amount of the funding up front will have to come from the Change Fund. But the Change Fund only lasts so long, and therefore it will have to be built into the budget in the future. So that's why I think it's quite important that we have commitment from colleagues in NHS. But it's really the question of evaluation which is of interest. How is it proposed to evaluate not the existing present programme, but the impact of the additional resources? And is it going to be possible to say annually that we've achieved this, that, the next as a result of the initial investments? And would the investments over the 3-year period be dependent upon evaluations on an annual basis? So in other words, if you're employing more staff up to the end of the 3-year period, would at each juncture of a year you seek authority to go on and because you've shown the evaluation of what you've done in the previous year has been successful? I mean, I have no doubt that it will be, but can we just be clear on that particular point, please?
Thank you so much. Happy to do that, Convener. Yes, so in terms of the evaluation of the scheme, we have already been in conversations with Public Health Scotland, who are going to support us with designing what would be an appropriate set of evaluating indicators for that. They have a suite that they regularly use with authorities and other places doing social prescribing. Why we want to dovetail in with them is, one, to get their professional support, but secondly, because then we're able to compare it to other schemes and the impacts that that would have. It should also allow us to put some economic measures onto those key performance indicators. So Flora Jackson, who some of you may know was involved in the sport and physical activity strategy, has already agreed to support us with that performance and monitoring. So yes, we will be bringing forward a detailed report annually on how things are progressing. So those measures are really fundamental, but I think where you will see the true impact is in those personal stories, some of which people have kindly shared with us today. So what we'll also be bringing forward is some real life examples of the meaningful differences that people have felt in their own lives as a result of this. Some might be reduction of medication, some might be that they felt able to leave their house and to attend things in the local village that they didn't hitherto be able. And for some, it's just about those social connections. And that's why in the design of the programme, every session will have a social element to it as well. So you're not just there for your exercise or your cultural activity, you can tea and a natter. And we do know that for most people, that's the most valuable part of the programme. So yes, there will be in-depth assessment of that. I think it's a matter for the council to decide whether they then want to use that to annually look at whether the scheme rolls forward. It's been very difficult for Jen and I to assess. Tier 2 is for those already living with life-limiting conditions. So we know from the NHS a volume of that. What's more difficult to predict is Tier 3, where we will allow people to self-prescribe to the programme. And we know that there are a lot of people who are already being indicated that they're at risk of some life-limiting conditions if they don't start to make changes to diet, exercise, social interactions. And the volume that we will require to keep up with that will be it's somewhat unknown. So at the end of each year, I think we also need to evaluate the impact that we're having and the opportunities to grow the programme, and potentially, as Councillor Tatler pointed out, the opportunity to link the programme to other factors such as diet, education, etc. So I think this is about getting something and getting moving and making a difference. I think the real opportunity for this will be huge, and we'll only know that over a partner time.
Thanks. It would be very helpful, I think, if I could have some additional information about the evaluation process, which was being mentioned. I don't know if that could be made available, but grateful if it could. Thank you.
Yes, certainly. Jen is working on that as we speak. So as soon as we have sort of detail, we'll be sharing that with officers, and it can be shared with yourself as well.
Okay, very helpful, and thank you, Ewan, for that. So next we'll turn to the extremely patient Councillor Linehan, and I'm guessing that's an adjective that's not used particularly often in your case, but Jenny.
Thank you, convener. Well, if I'm the last, clearly you were saving me for that. Actually, it's quite nice to be last because there were so many points that everybody else has made that I just want to emphasise. And firstly, I just want to thank Councillor Tatler for revealing his own personal issues. And, hopefully just by saying that, he will have encouraged other people to get on their bikes, so to speak, and do something. There are, in his case, it was for physical reasons, but there are mental reasons, and that's really the key for me here. Certainly the demons I have fought and continue to fight, I have prescribed myself with dog walking and gardening and beekeeping, and that has helped me massively. There is a balance here. There's always going to be a place for medication. So, people mustn't think that, just because you're doing something physical means you don't need to take medication. You always need to take advice. And that's really important. Robin had also picked up, just the issues about getting people outside. And that's key, because it's not just the physical activity, it's seeing sunlight. In this country, we have probably high amounts of people who suffer from SAD. And if the early morning is the best sunlight that we can get, so encouraging people just to sit outside and have a cup of tea first thing in the morning, enjoy that time, meditate on what's around us. We have beautiful countryside here, and even if we're not able to walk in it, some people can't, just to get outside and feel the sunlight. I love what Caroline just said there. This is about making a difference. We're all here to make a difference, and we're all here to support this paper, which is fantastic. I just want to pick up on one last thing, and brought up by Councillor Orr about transport and integration. It is something that we're really, really keen in the transport field to try and be better at. But obviously, this comes down to funding. I'll certainly speak with colleagues about how we can progress that. But a really, really good paper, and thank you.
Jenny, thank you very much for that. And actually, not quite last, because the Councillor Perrone, who moved the motion, normally we don't allow a second speaker, but those that either executive members or people moving the motion do get allowed to say a word. And there's Councillor Bathgate now flagging to try and beat the final whistle, but we'll let Councillor Perrone make her comment of clarity.
I actually have a couple of questions that I wanted to ask that I wasn't able to do at the time of the amendment. On the paper, it looks like you need 11 extra staff. I just wondered whether you could confirm that, and also confirm to us how many social prescribing wellbeing staff you have at the moment, and whether you believe there will be more staff required going forward. And also, following on from Councillor Robson's point about evaluation, perhaps it would be a good idea that we certainly got an update on the paper and how you're progressing in 6 months. I think I would like to see that, and I imagine other members would. And also perhaps a yearly look back to council as well, so that we can see that progress against the evaluation and against your KPIs. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll take the second point first, because I'm going to defer to Jen on the numbers. But certainly, in terms of the new sort of partnership arrangements that we're working for with SPC, it's our intention to present to full council every 6 months. So we would be updating all of our key programmes. Things like the business transformation, social prescribing programme would be a staple of that update and presentation. So yes, we will definitely do that. And I think that first update will come round about November time this year. And that will allow us to we'll know whether the funding has been secured in the work that Jen and the team are doing to get started and get moving on the programme. So Jen, I'll let you cover the points on current staffing and future staffing.
Yeah, thank you. So currently, as I said at the start, our team is quite small. So apart from myself, we have around 2 full-time equivalent, just slightly over, I think it's 2.3 full-time equivalent of staffing within the health coaching team. That equates to 6 people, so there's lots of part-time contracts there, and they're covering the whole region to a point. There's obviously pockets that we can't get into due to capacity. The staffing is the biggest part of what the money is for here, and as I'd said as well, it's very much about being person-centred, and we need people to build those relationships to be able for that to happen. So within the Tier 2 programme, we'll be more than doubling the amount of staff we have. So obviously we're looking to double the capacity, but we're going to more than double the staff so that we can really build those relationships and enable us to do those regular check-ins and spend the time doing the one-to-one behaviour change. And then within the Tier 3, it'll be a similar amount of staff that will be delivering that. So there'll be 2 coaches at each of the sessions that will be running, so that we can have someone that's sort of leading and then someone that's there in a support capacity. So obviously it could be a potential wide range of people with wide ranging needs coming along. So it's enabling us to kind of give people the time and space that they need within that. We've also built in some staff that sort of lead and things like that as well. So obviously there's going to be a lot of evaluation and things needed as well. So we've got the support staff to sit around that as well. But the bulk of the staff will be customer facing.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. And it's nice to hear that it's also bringing new jobs into the borders as well.
Julie, thank you for that. Councillor Bathgate, John.
Thank you. Just really to say there's that many opportunities in the Borders for people to get out and about. It's a great rural area, but such a sporting history as well. Last night I was at Border Ice Rink. So anyone who wants a leaflet can try curling. That's of interest. On the wet capacity, I never thought I'd be saying today, we backed the reopening of Jedburgh Pool. So hopefully that'll help to reduce the strain on any other facilities with the pool and gym. Community orchards, we have a few in the Borders, which are good for physical health and mental health. And in September, we have the Walking Festival. So if anyone's wanting to book up for a long, short, medium walk, please do so.
Thank you, John. Probably the best sales pitch we've heard today so far. I'm just checking around the room now. Has everybody had a chance to speak on this important subject? Yep, Councillor Douglas Marshall.
Yes, thank you. And really, I think it's a tremendous report, and it's ideal for what we need in the Borders. The only issue I have is a little bit with the evaluation, because I think it's very difficult to evaluate something which will cover so many individuals on such a personal basis. Much of the work and the results that will come about will be very much on a personal level. People that have social exclusion, they're at home, they're not going out, they're not mixing, and going to the doctors for medication and all of these things. So I think it's very difficult to measure that and to gauge just exactly what the benefit will be. But I think it will obviously be tremendous, the benefit. And I think, well done to everybody involved in this. And I would certainly hope that the health boards see the great potential to reduce their own expenditure by going along with this as well. So certainly commend the report. Thank you.
Yeah, Marshall, thank you. Oban, Katrina back.
Yeah, in terms of that monitoring, you're right. Sometimes that more subjective stuff is difficult to measure. But how Jen will work this alongside public health is there is very clear, tried and tested questionnaires that are now, extremely well researched. They've been designed by, university sectors, etc., on key indicators of how someone's more able to live life as a result of a program like this. So those questionnaires, so the starting point is if there is a referral from a professional, and it wouldn't necessarily be a medical one, there would be a set of information that we ask them to provide to give us an indication of where the individual is. One of the reasons that this is quite a staff heavy is that we have to do that behavioural change. So there's a sort of initial discussion with the individual, a triage is what we sort of call it. And we'll be using a computer system that allows us to get those questionnaires out and to support people to answer them. Some of the things they ask there is how many times have you visited social care practitioner in the last 6 months, for example? How many times have you had to go to the GP? Have you used any other services? That will allow us to basically show if as a result of engaging in these programs and sustaining physical activity and activity of culture, activity of art, whatever it happens to be, that they are having a less of a call on services. So that's how we'll try and tackle that a little bit. Then, they ask simple questions like, do you feel more able to climb stairs than you were before the programme? Can you now carry your shopping where you weren't before? Those sort of indicators, because what we're really looking at here is this isn't about creating Olympic champions. This is about getting people to move more. Now, all of the guidance has now changed from you must do this amount or it's no use to saying, actually, if you just move more than what you did before, there will be a benefit to you. So sometimes it will be stark in some of the examples we've been given, and sometimes it will just mean that they're now able to carry their own shopping home from that, or they feel able to actually go and start up a conversation. They feel that they're no longer isolated because on a Wednesday and a Friday they go down and they do their activity. And then Jen's team will move them from that 12-week programme to our Tier 4 provision and other people's Tier 4 provisions. So this isn't about Live Borders trying to deliver every single one of these sessions. This is about Live Borders being that engine in the middle, that catalyst to get people out engaging in community activity, some of which will be run by us, but a lot of which won't. And we hope in the future, in time, we'll be able to design a standard for this programme that allows us to say your delivery meets the standards for delivering this, and therefore we're happy to put people through onto your programme, but you have to evaluate them in the same way as we do, because we need that consistency of data. So just wanted to give you an insight of, you know, how the sort of measures we're going to look at and how we get at some of those more subtle changes that are very personal to individuals.
Just to add as well, so there's not currently really any national data sets around physical activity. So referring really to the Tier 2 programme there, we are, along with about 13 other leisure trusts in Scotland, working on a Once for Scotland project, currently supported by Edinburgh Napier University. We've agreed sort of a data set, so we're all collecting the same information, and it's around sort of socioeconomic background information and things like the primary reason for referral, other comorbidities, and things around engagement and adherence to the programme. So as data for that starts to come out in the next sort of couple of years, that will give us a sort of a benchmark, so we can benchmark against national data, but we'll also be able to benchmark against our own data, and that will be a set of data that's sort of recognised across Scotland. I don't think really in the UK there's really national data, so it's quite a forward-thinking project that we're working on. But the evaluation of these programmes is inherently difficult, because a lot of it is asking people how they feel and making a prediction on where they might have ended up if they hadn't made those changes at that time. So it's something that we do recognise, but there's elements of that we are currently working on and hope to develop further.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, Marshall, thank you for that. And we've got Councillor Moffat.
Thank you, Convener. I wasn't intending to say anything about this, but I will. I fully supported this programme because back in 2006, I actually got prescribed to do a 12-week course by the doctor to actually improve my health at the time. And I went and done a 12-week course of aqua aerobics at the Swan Pool. And I wasn't put off by the fact that when I first went, there was only 2, possibly 3 men went to it. And it ended up being just myself and a whole load of women. But I managed to survive it after the 12-week course. I actually done it for over a year, and I lost over a stone in weight, which was really good at the time, because, you know, I never really realised that I would lose weight by just doing that. And I only went twice a week, sort of thing, so it was good. But the other item that actually helps is somebody else, I think it was Julie pointed out, or somebody else pointed out, I think John Bathgate, about the fact that we've got loads of other things we can do. And at the tail end of COVID, I got myself in the habit of going out for walks. And I got up to 10 miles a day before I went and sprained my ankle or done my ligaments, I think it was I done. But in saying that, when I done that, I actually lost 2 stone in weight. And I was really, you know, at the peak of sort of real being able to do a good walk fairly fast. And the more you do it, the better you get, sort of thing. So I actually fully support this, because I think it is good for your health. It does make you breathe a lot better. It makes everything a lot better.
Yeah, thank you for that, well done. Anybody else? Well done. Are we happy to agree with the recommendations? We are. And can I thank Katrina, Jen, and Jenny, thank you very much for bringing that today, and thank you for the presentation. I can only tell you, members, that you're very lucky that Councillor Marshall didn't stand up and tell you that he was the 3 times winner of the Mansfield Bar Dominoes competition. Colleagues, now a 10-minute break. Absolutely 10.
Going to lose the executive member if we have a break.
Well, sorry, hang on, please. Hang on a second.
Executive member, next paper, has got to leave at 12.
Well, we've got 10 minutes. Yeah. Can do it. Yeah, I need to have a break. All right. Can you just go to sort of line, please?
We are live, convener.
Thanks, Declan, and colleagues, thanks for returning promptly. So we're now turning to item number 10 on the agenda, Scottish Borders Cultural Arts Heritage Strategy and Cultural Partnership. And once again, I turn to Mrs. Craig. Jenny.
Yeah, thanks very much, convener. So this report, as you say, brings forward the final Scottish Borders Culture, Arts and Heritage Strategy for approval and publication. I think at this point, just to say that what you're seeing is not the final verse, Borders Cultural Partnership, which will provide the practical structure to help take the strategy forward. The strategy itself, as you know, has been developed over a considerable period of time, and there's been extensive engagement with communities, cultural organisations, heritage groups, young people and regional partners. It's also been shaped by the public consultation on the draft strategy that you previously considered and agreed, and which confirmed broad support for the overall direction. We have obviously taken into account feedback, the need for clearer language, stronger recognition of community-led culture and a more practical approach to delivery. And I'm joined on screen by Naomi Sweeney, who's been instrumental in that space in terms of leading that facilitation work right across the board. So in response, the final strategy has been shortened, is simplified and refocused. It now sets out a clear long-term vision and strategic priorities, while detailed delivery actions will sit within a separate rolling action plan. That approach should allow the strategy to remain stable and strategic, while giving partners the flexibility to respond to changing opportunities, funding, capacity and community needs. The report also recognises that approval of the strategy on its own is not enough. Delivery will require shared leadership right across the sector, stronger partnership working and clear routes for wider voices to be heard. And this is why the report proposes a shadow cultural partnership led by Live Borders and supported by Scottish Borders Council and other partners to develop the governance, representation and that first rolling action plan. Importantly, the strategy does not commit the Council to new funding at this stage. Future projects or investment proposals would come forward through the usual approval and budget processes. However, the strategy and partnership model should put the Borders in a stronger position to coordinate activity, identify opportunities, support funding bids, and give greater visibility to the cultural strength of our communities, which we know are so strong and so fundamentally important. So the recommendations before members are therefore to approve the final strategy, as I say, subject to final design for publication, note the consultation response and revisions made, and note the proposed cultural partnership approach. And agree that progress should be reported through the appropriate council and partnership governance arrangements. So I'll maybe pause there, convener, but very happy to take questions between officers that are here. Thank you.
Jenny, thank you very much indeed for promptly rushing through that. So I have apologies from Councillor Hamilton, the executive member, but I believe she's been deputised by the very able Councillor Linehan. Jenny.
Thank you. Yes, this week I'm going to be Councillor Hamilton, who wanted me to personally apologise that due to a personal matter she is unable to be here. This cultural strategy is here before us as a result of a lot of hard work, dedication and collaboration, and I'd like to thank those officers that have repeatedly strived to get this document here before you today. I would also like to thank the many people who have come forward and given their time to talk to us about culture and what it means to be part of the cultural scene and how we can improve. Please note the mapping of 1,100 organisations here in the Borders during this process. Without your input, we would not have had the result that we have today. I hope that you will agree we have captured the breadth of feeling, not an easy task, as culture means different things to different people. And I hope that you'll agree with our vision. A vibrant and inclusive borders where people, places and culture thrive, celebrating our heritage, supporting creativity and helping local talent and communities flourish. We know we cannot do this on our own, and I look forward to working with Live Borders and other stakeholders to deliver this vision. The Borders is not short on culture, art, music and heritage, and I encourage all those with ideas to fulfil our vision to join us and help deliver this strategy. As a council with so many other responsibilities, I welcome those who want to be part of this plan. I ask that you accept the recommendations set out here before you this morning. Thank you.
Jenny, thank you very much indeed, and well done for stepping in. I've got Councillor Marshall followed by Councillor Pironi.
Thanks very much, Convener. Colleagues, I'm pleased that we have this important paper before us this morning. It is, as we've heard, a paper that sets out a long-term vision with priorities and hopefully positive outcomes as to how best we as a local authority can work in partnership to support and recognise the many fantastic groups and organisations that work tirelessly to promote everything good about our region. The paper on several occasions makes mention as to how all of our communities are deeply rooted in tradition and culture, and I know that I speak for many in my hometown of Hawick, particularly the organisations of Hawick Common Riding Committee, our Reivers Festival, and indeed the Alchemy Film Festival, to name but a few. Members, these are all superb organisations who are also made up of volunteers. And the paper, as it says, there's another 1,100 groups out there. But because of their efforts, they attract thousands upon thousands of visitors to our communities each year. These organisations will be delighted, I know, that this strategy of culture and heritage has now included them and indeed fully recognises the importance of their very being and partnership working. Colleagues, the word individual is mentioned in the document when alluding to our uniqueness of our towns and its villages. And I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. No matter where your roots lie, and no matter where you were born, but when we in the Scottish Borders speak passionately of our proud traditions, local festivals, civic weeks, we speak of our vibrant arts communities, when we speak passionately of our historical past and indeed our rich culture, then we must never lose sight that all of those ingredients are actually the glue that binds and bonds our communities together. Of course, this paper is not just about what the council will do to recognise all of this, but it's also about bringing everyone together in a very collaborative way as it develops through time. And by doing so, I, for one, am confident that all of us, Mr. Convener, will have played a vital role in promoting and supporting everything that's great about our region. Mr. Convener, I'm confident that this strategy will do what it says on the tin. And I thank Jenny Craig and Live Borders for their efforts in bringing it before us today. So, colleagues, I ask that you support the recommendations as laid out in the paper. Thank you.
Sure, thanks very much indeed. Next, we turn to Councillor Pironi. Julie.
Very much, Convener. As someone who briefly started off this strategy, I'm delighted to see Councillor Hamilton and the council team bringing it together and to fruition. I am also thankful to everyone who took part, and Stuart before me has outlined just exactly what that means. It is an excellent piece of work. Thank you. It sets out a long-term vision for the first time, I believe, and it clearly shows that cultural and heritage mean many things to many people in the Borders, and that it is important it continues to be part of our region's promotion, as well as helping to ensure that cultural education continues to be part of our schools, curriculum and in our communities. I look forward to the rolling action plan and seeing the cultural partnership working in practice. I also support the recommendations in the paper.
Julie, thank you. Next, Councillor Indy. John.
Yeah, I obviously support the paper. It's a good one. A lot of words, and I'm sure there's been a lot of input from outside sources. But I don't notice anywhere in there which talks about what artists across the board actually need to be able to do that work and to improve the cultural evidence of the Borders. I mean, most artists need somewhere to work. they need financial ability to work and the ability to share their work. And I think without those things, you stifle to some degree artist production. You also, by having those places there, people can actually go to them, see what's going on and talk with them, maybe find out of my head. You want to actually destroy everything. But on this council, there are a number of artists and makers across the arts. When I talk about arts, I mean a wide range. And I think really those councillors, if they wish, should be involved in looking at ways we can find answers to the needs of artists themselves. One of the problems, the place to work, there are, and show their work, there are a number of empty buildings around the borders that just sit there endlessly being empty. With a little bit of outside the box thinking, I'm sure that they could be accessed for either working in, showing their work, etc. And I do honestly believe that the arts being made available visually and practically can go a long way to helping loneliness and isolation. So I'd like to see something set up where there is a committee, call it what you will, that really seriously looks at ways that we can provide somewhere to work, financial ability to work, and the ability to share their work. If any of that made sense, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it does, and I think it is a noted point.
Yeah, I think really good points, and I think that's what we want the partnership to get into, is exactly those things, and then look at what collectively we can do. And you're absolutely right, you know, in terms of our kind of approach to our property estate, and whether there's things that we can do working with some of those artistic groups or individual artists, or indeed other cultural groups that could come together and think about taking on a particular building and what that would mean. Those are exactly the types of things that we would be looking for the partnership to identify as priorities, and then look at other partners to support with that, like SOSI, like Creative Scotland. So just some reassurance around that's exactly what we want the partnership to get in and amongst as quickly as possible in terms of driving that action plan.
Thank you, that's brilliant.
Yeah, Jenny, that's very helpful. Thank you. Next, Councillor Smart.
Thank you, convener. So, two really exciting reports from ourselves in conjunction with the borders today. I didn't choose to speak on the first one because I think lots of people did, but this one has got me very, very excited. I can't contain myself, quite honestly. You know, as you know, I'm a practicing artist myself. I keep practicing. I'm strategy steering group. All the things that it listed there, I'm sure John would agree, are really high in sort of, certainly in my thinking from my background and experience. So it'd be really interesting to see how this works, how it's integrated into the whole across the borders with Live Borders and ourselves. And I really can't wait to see some things in HQ up on the walls. That'll be interesting. One thing I did want to sort of put into the mix, I don't know if you've considered it yet or not, is that the Scottish Government do have a commitment to the Scottish Artists Minimum Income Scheme, which hasn't come forward yet. But in the process that was doing all of this work and all of the things we're going to be doing with artists, and like John, when I say artists, I mean musicians, writers, the people taking part in culture. It's the broad term I mean it under. So if there's any sort of work you could do there that would help towards informing that scheme. So when the Scottish Government are asking us the question of who would want to do this, what sort of monies would they be looking for? You know, how many people do you think might be wanting to participate in this from the borders? We might have some answers already ready. That would be really useful, I think, for their progress. And I would probably recommend talking to the Scottish Artists Union, because I know they've done quite a lot of work in that area already, and they have some definitive amounts already in mind. Whether they come off or not, I don't know. But it would be interesting to know across the borders how many artists would be interested in participating in that basic income scheme, because it is one of the things that's fundamental for an artist of whatever type they are. In order to have the mental space to be able to create, and also the physical space to be able to create, you do need some kind of basic income. It's kind of fundamental, really, and it then frees you up to do all the things that you want to do. And I think the Irish scheme that introduced this as a pilot and has now become permanent has demonstrated that for every euro that they invested in artists, they got, I think, approximately 1.4 euros back. So it does generate more than it takes, but it's making that initial commitment that is obviously difficult for governments and councils alike. So, thank you.
Okay, thanks again. Acknowledged.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really helpful feedback. And now that Martha, the head of culture, started in Live Borders as well, we can maybe make some connections there just to understand that work and make sure that's again part of what the partnership might want to look at and influence going forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Thank you, Annette. Anybody else on this subject? No. And just for the record, can I endorse the all the comments made around this paper? I think is really, really important and great to see as well from my point of view. So thank you for that. Are we happy to review the recommendations? Great. Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Okay, colleagues, item number 11 on the agenda today is to consider the appointment to the Focus Centre Committee following the resignation of Councillor Sinclair. So on that note, can I ask for nominations for a representative on that outside body? Councillor Sinclair.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor McKinnon.
Councillor McKinnon. Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for Councillor McKinnon? Councillor Payton Day, thank you. Are there any other nominations? No. Neil, congratulations. You're now a member of the Focus Committee. And thank you, Councillor Sinclair, for your past efforts and work with the committee. I know you've done very well there, so thank you for that. Item number 12 is the draft agenda for next month's meeting, 24th of September. I'll just turn to Susan to see if there's any comments to make.
Thank you, Convener. There's two papers that have been deferred. The Gallant Medium Primary Education paper that will be considered in November, and the St Joseph's paper that will be considered in November as well. Thank you.
Okay, Susan, has anybody any questions on the minutes? No. Okay, thank you for that. In which case, we'll move on to item number 13, the open questions. And the first question from Councillor Steele is to the Executive Member for Roads and Public Space Development, Councillor Greenwald.
Thank you, Convener, and thank you, Councillor Steele, for your question. The Council's position on cross-pavement EV charging has not changed. This remains a complex area, and only a small number of Scottish local authorities are currently considering this type of infrastructure. Fewer still have reached the stage of live trials. For these reasons, the Council is not currently proposing to introduce a cross-pavement EV charging scheme in the short term. We recognise the growing interest in these solutions and are continuing to monitor developments elsewhere. Work is currently being taken forward nationally through SCOTS, the Society of Chief Officers of Transportation in Scotland, which is considering the increasing demand for on-street and cross-pavement charging and seeking to support a more consistent approach across local authorities. A report will be presented to Council in September, setting out further information on the range of options available for on-street parking, including cross-pavement charging solutions. This will provide members with an update on current practice, opportunities, constraints, and potential future consideration for the Scottish borders. In the meantime, Scottish Borders Council is focusing on delivering the EV Infrastructure Fund project. This is being developed through a regional partnership with neighbouring local authorities and a private sector charge point operator, supported by Scottish Government funding. The project aims to expand public EV charging across the region and improve access to charging for communities. Existing Charge Place Scotland chargers will transfer to the private sector operator, which will then operate and maintain them. This partnership may also help create future opportunities to expand on-street charging provision as the market and policy landscape continue to develop.
Councillor Steele, any supplementary?
Thank you. No, I don't have a supplementary, but could I get a copy of the answer?
You can.
Thank you.
Okay, and I thank you very much indeed for that. So next questions from Councillor Marshall Douglas, the Executive Member for Planning and Community Assets, Councillor Mountford. Simon.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. And thank you again for one of the easiest questions I've ever been asked. And the answer is simple, yes. Officers will be happy to provide a briefing to all members on this issue as requested, and that will be arranged as soon as possible.
Councillor Douglas.
Yes, thank you very much for that very short and sweet response. And I think it's very important that the councillors do have the ability to have that briefing. There's an awful lot of interest at this point of time in planning applications and what can be done in terms of correspondence or relating to interested parties, either for or against applications. So I think it's well worth having that briefing, and I certainly thank the Executive Member for his response and for officers in agreeing to that as well. Thank you.
Marshall, thank you very much indeed for that. So question number 3 is from Councillor Peyton Day to the Executive Member for People, Governance and Change. And on this occasion, it will be answered by Councillor Hamilton. Scott.
Thank you very much, Convener, and thank you, Councillor Peyton Day, for your question. On behalf of Councillor Cox, I reply, there are currently 281 employees aged 25 or under employed within the Council. All employees receive appropriate in-house training relevant to their roles, service areas and responsibilities. In addition, a number of the young employees are will shortly undertake formal training or qualification routes. This includes 31 qualified teachers, 6 graduate apprentices, 14 modern apprentices and 36 support workers. There are also several staff being supported to undertake role-specific external modules that relate to their role, young people across the council departments, and are supported through both role-specific in-house training and recognised vocational apprenticeship and professional qualification pathways.
Just to confirm, no supplementary. Okay, thank you, John. Thanks. So question number 4 is also a further question from Councillor Peyton Day to Executive Member for People, Governance and Change, once again covered by Councillor Hamilton.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Peyton Day, for the question. Thank you for no supplementary on the last one. Hopefully this answer is comprehensive as well. Before the summer, CMT agreed to present an opportunity for council departments to offer extended work placements for young people in the senior phase. This forms as part of our SPC Diploma of Achievement, where young people would undertake a work placement every Friday as part of their curriculum. An indicative number of placements was agreed based on the career aspirations identified by young people and how these would be matched with the relevant departments across the council. High schools have already been delivering similar arrangements for a number of years. For example, where schools or the school's academies offer childcare courses, young people may complete their SVQ placements within a school nursery. Education is now looking to further develop extended work placement opportunities, giving pupils valuable experience of the workplace and helping them develop the skills and behaviours of employers are looking for. Exact numbers will not be known until the school returns in August. The Employment Support Service offer paid work placements to clients engaging with the service. This is client-led. To date, clients have benefited from work placements in a range of departments. One in SBC's mailroom, one in the access team,
2 in fleet services, 1 in waste, 4 in parks, and 1 in Waverley Care Home. 17 clients have also benefited from work experience within schools through our previously supported Work, Learn, Grow programme, combining learning at Borders College and on-the-job experience in school settings. This has resulted in 4 PSA job outcomes to date, 2 jobs in SEN passenger transport, and 2 clients have moved on to further education as a result. Our client in waste services is currently undertaking an HGV training, which will enhance job opportunities within the waste service itself.
Yeah, just to confirm, no supplementary question. Okay, John, thanks very much indeed. Question number 5 is a question from Councillor Thornton-Nicol to me. I've provided Councillor Thornton-Nicol with a written response, and I'll be happy to engage with her if she wants any supplementary following a response to that. Okay, thank you very much indeed. Now let's move to item number 14. Any other items previously circulated? And there are none. Any other items which the convener decides are urgent? Item 15, and there are none. On item 16, can I seek your approval to move to private business? Do you agree? Great. And the live stream, please.